Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Zephyr Epic. You can use promo code HOCKEYSEASON, capital H, capital S, all one word, Hockey Season. That will get you $5 off your order. Again, if you shop online, that is at zephyrepic.com. ZEPHYR Epic.com. They also have a retail location in Surrey, so you can go check them out in person. If you like to shop around, if you like to go look at the hockey cards, you like to go look at the Pokemon cards, whatever your trading card needs, Zephyr Epic has got you covered, so be sure to go check them out. Also online at all of their social media channels. Lots of good stuff, giveaways, all the latest information about the new packs that are coming out. And hey, Upper Deck Series 1 coming out for the 23-24 NHL season that's coming out soon. Be sure to check them out. Zephyr Epic. My co-host here, Chris Faber. You got a card there? You got a lobster shirt and a pink bow tie on. That's your lucky shirt.
It is my lucky shirt. So I don't know what this card is. I got the same one yesterday, but it's just a different little set. The pole is a Dylan Larkin, and we got a Vancouver Canuck here at the back. Dakota Joshua. I believe this is probably one of his first cards, at least in the Upper Deck series. Dakota Joshua's first card in a Canuck jersey. So that's nice. I'll put that one aside right on top of this Louis Eriksson Canucks card that I got right here. Yeah, I got my lobster shirt on today. The folks from the Maritimes are getting in.
So you got to impress them. How do you feel? You're getting married in 3 days.
I feel pretty good, honestly. Work's stressing me out more than the wedding, so that's good.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, for the wedding, I feel good. I'm excited for it. I'm ready to get there. Head out there tomorrow, get over to the island, going to go do a shop at Costco, get some Gatorades and orange juice for the day, and then pretty much hopefully just chill. I think everything's done. My fiance has been very busy printing out things, cutting out cards. Her mom's been here for the last couple days too, so that's been a lot of help. And yeah, that's that. I'm just excited to get to the damn thing. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the day is going to be great. I'm curious. I wonder if and maybe people who've gotten married can let me know in the chat. Does the day feel like really long or really fast? I don't really understand. I've heard both from people that like the day is very, very long, but also it flies by. So like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect on Sunday.
You're asking the wrong guy. I don't know. Every wedding I've gone to, I don't know. You have and look, I don't mean to slag weddings right before yours, but you have, and I guess I'll be more involved in yours, so it'll be a little different as a groomsman, but you have kind of the reception or the ceremony or whatever in the morning. And then you have this long window where you're with these people you don't really know that well. And even if you do know them, you don't want to talk to them for 4 hours. And then you're just there. Like, I don't know. I've been to some weddings where there's a go home period where you go to a new venue and sometimes you got time to stop somewhere else on the way home. You stop at your place, you chill a little bit, maybe get out of the suit, put something else on. I don't know.
That's going to be one of my favorite parts of the day. Aside from marrying the love of my life, one of the favorite parts is going to be getting out of that suit, because I went with the tighter pants because it looks a little bit better. I wanted to go with the loose pair. That's what I would have done if it was like a suit that I was buying to wear to Canucks games or something. But no, I'm going with the tighter one for the good photos, right? Because we got a lot of photos to do, and that's the other thing. I need a haircut. That's tomorrow morning. Finally get my haircut. I didn't wear a hat today, so people are seeing my afro is just starting a little bit here. The fro's coming in a little bit. So
that is why I am wearing a hat. I have to get a haircut as well tomorrow, and I got to pick up our suits. I got a busy day. A lot is riding on me. I don't know if you should have done that for this wedding. You got a lot riding on me.
I don't think so. All you got to do is pick up the suits. It's one thing. It takes 4 minutes, and they also are
bringing get my haircut.
Well, I don't care about that. You don't have to do that. I asked my brother, because we went and did the suit fitting with him yesterday. My brother's got a mop on the top of his head right now, and I was like, "You getting a haircut?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'm going in for a little trim tomorrow." I said, "Okay." Not like I was going to force him to do it. Like my brother's a skateboarder, right? He's got the long skater hair and all that stuff. So I wasn't let him live his life, let him do his thing. But I wanted to check, like, are you getting a trim? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, excited for that. But I want to get this thing going, man. I'm excited for it.
Everybody in the chat here says that time seems like it's going to fly on your wedding day. So it's an exciting time. Also, it's funny that you were like, yeah, there's a lot going on at work. Who knew that a wedding, the day of the NHL season starting, would mean that there's a lot going on at work right now? Who would have thought? Who would have thought, Chris? Wednesday night, you were in Abbotsford. The Vancouver Canucks falling to the Seattle Kraken by a final score of 2-1. You were there. You were on scene. Your takeaways from the game. We'll get to it soon. We already announced Jeff Paterson on Twitter and everything. He's joining the show at 1:15. But in the 10 minutes we have till then, let's talk about last night's game. What were your takeaways?
My takeaways was that was a lot of driving for not a lot of great hockey. It was a very preseason game. The lineup, I guess, for the Vancouver Canucks wasn't the greatest in the second last preseason of the game, which is supposed to be a home game. I was expecting a little bit of a better lineup, but didn't really, I don't know. To me, it was really hard to actually gain some takeaways from that game. Like, it was very boring. I don't know how it felt on TV, but being in the arena, not a lot going on in that game. I'm curious. Actually, I didn't talk to you about this. We haven't talked since before the show today, but like, how was it watching on the broadcast? Because man, that was one of the most boring. We were all saying it out there. Like, you would get a lot more excitement from an AHL game. Honestly, like, I've seen a lot more exciting games out there at the Abbotsford Centre, featuring the full AHL lineup. I was borderline snoozing up in the press box in my favorite spot, but I was happy to see Marcel. You've been listening to the show. He's mad at you for calling him Maurice. He doesn't know what that's all about, but gave Marcel a big hug yesterday. So it was good to see Marce out there again.
So my takeaways from the game, and yeah, it was fine to watch on stream. Batch and Dan Riccio did a great job on the broadcast together. Other than, man, that audio clicking sometimes, that was a lot to deal with. But it was good. It was a good product. Those guys do a fantastic job. But for the game itself, it looked like two close to NHL teams just trying to play very defensive. Like, I think both teams were playing a very conservative style, and we know that the Seattle Kraken are a very, systematic kind of team. Like, they're very robotic in a way. They forecheck hard obviously as well, and we saw that last night. But with the Canucks, it looked like I was watching a game from the bubble, like when they were playing the Vegas Golden Knights and they were just guarding that home plate area and there wasn't much offense. Like, I thought they played well defensively, but they didn't score at even strength. And that's going to be a big topic on tomorrow's show when I'm joined by Harman Dial. Him and I were just kind of talking about what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot about 5-on-5 scoring on tomorrow's show. Harman's got a lot of good thoughts on that. But back to what I was saying about last night was, it looked like they were really defending that home plate area. The Canucks were. And, like, I don't know, it leads to boring hockey, right? Like that's just what you get when you have that. And it's just, we know that the Rick Tocchet system is going to be very defensive, very similar to what we saw from Travis Green right before he was fired when he tried to get the Canucks playing that very defensive style. Look, I don't know. I don't know. You can't have too many takeaways from last night, but that was one of them, was that I think the Canucks are going to be a good defensive team. Now it's about scoring at 5-on-5. They played that game without their top guys. So yeah, maybe that defensive system, although they're playing it right, they're not going to generate the same level of offense that they would if they had Elias Patterson in the lineup, if they had Quinn Hughes, JT Miller in the lineup. So that was one thing. The other thing was that Filip Hronek looks really good. Like, I thought he looked awesome last night. I think he's going to be, I've already given you the take that I think he's going to play a lot with Quinn Hughes, and that we're just not seeing it a ton in the preseason, but that, late in games that he's going to be able to just kind of mesh well with Quinn Hughes. I think you're going to see that. I really liked Filip Hronek's game last night. Casey DeSmith looked good. That's like the main kind of takeaways. And the big one to me is, are you buying what the Canucks penalty kill is selling? Because to some extent I am, because the Kraken went 0 for 3 last night. Canucks successfully kill off the penalties. I know there was one goal that was scored right at the end of one, so almost 1 for 3, but for the most part, they did look good on the penalty kill. And what impressed me the most, Chris, was that to some extent we weren't seeing, like, their top penalty killers weren't on the ice, if that makes sense. Like we were seeing it from all over the place. Like, we were seeing Dakota Joshua. I thought he had a really good night on the penalty kill, just as one example. I was liking that we were seeing it from other players other than the guys we're kind of expecting to be this team's top penalty killers.
I thought Pius Suter was good on the penalty kill, and I thought he was strong throughout the game. He looks like he's going to be a fine little 3C, right? Like, and he'll chip in the goals here and there. One of the big takeaways I thought from yesterday was, like, you can clearly see the Seattle Kraken's identity, right? Like, in that game, like, let's pin them in, let's tire them out, and let's just get some pucks towards the net. And that's something that they did so well. They were a tough team to break the puck out on. And the Canucks, like, it almost watching yesterday's game gave me a real thought. And we've had this discussion throughout the offseason. I mean, Sports Talk Radio loves talking about the identity of the Vancouver Canucks. And I felt like the identity almost showed yesterday because of the players that they were missing. The identity of the Canucks is, like, their stars are going to have to lead them to victory every night, right? Like Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, Thatcher Demko. The stars are going to have to lead the Vancouver Canucks. We've been wondering what their identity is for so long. Last night's game kind of showcased it for me. It's like they're going to need to be led by their stars. there's not a guy in the depth of this team that's really going to go out there and win you games on a consistent basis. It's all about those stars winning you games. And I think we saw that on display yesterday. And that's a tough thing because, I mean, that's a lot on just a few guys. When you have a full roster of players, you're relying a lot on those stars to be the ones leading you. I think we've cracked the case. Like, that is the identity of the Vancouver Canucks to me. And that can be a difficult thing. And I think they're going to try and adjust that identity a little bit more to fit what Rick Tocchet's trying to preach to the players. If you brought it up, like the defensive things and really making a commitment to the defensive zone more than just going out there and scoring a ton offensively. But I don't know. Yesterday kind of just made me really think, like, this team didn't have an identity because they were missing their stars. I guess when their stars are in, the power play, capitalizing on power plays, looking half decent on the penalty kill is a part of their identity now. It just feels like they're building something here under Rick Tocchet where, yeah, they're not at the level of having a stable identity like the Seattle Kraken, but at least they have something here that they can kind of work with. I did want to bring this up, and I know the 10-0 score obviously hurts this ratio quite a bit, but I was looking this up in the preseason. I know it's just preseason, and I saw Carson Price had this poll question on their show earlier today, asking about the 1-3-1 record, because it was another loss for the Vancouver Canucks in regulation yesterday in preseason. I don't really read too much into the preseason record, but through the preseason, and I know the 10-0 is really going to affect this, but the Vancouver Canucks have the second worst goals per 60 at 5-on-5 in the NHL. And they have the worst goals against per 60 at 5-on-5 in the preseason. So a little bit of a worrisome there, but I really do think that 10-0 score against Calgary really affects that a lot, but it's still not a great thing to see throughout the preseason when you look at it as a whole.
I wonder what it looks like without that game. Like, that's what I like about a lot of the baseball stat websites is you can kind of just take away one game. Although baseball, Twitter, and people abuse that. They're like, if you take away this player's best season, this is their numbers. Anyways, let's not focus too much on baseball. Are you really concerned about the Canucks' ability to not get scored on at 5-on-5? Because you threw out that stat, and I think that's largely contributed because of that Calgary game. Because I think since that game, they've done a pretty good job at keeping the puck out of the net. What worries me more is where is this team's goals going to come from if you lose an Elias Pettersson or a JT Miller, or not even lose, just if those guys aren't on their game, because we've seen that before. Look, Elias Pettersson, there's no question that he's now into that kind of superstar status, and we're not expecting him to have any sort of dip in production like he did 2 years ago. Last season, he was pretty consistent all season long, but just the level of reliance on their top guys, I don't want to say it worries me. I'm just curious where the goals are going to come from, at 5-on-5. If they get into trouble where a team isn't taking penalties against them and their power play doesn't have a chance to get cooking, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's going to be as smooth sailing as I think some people think when they hear structure, habits, and we're going to stop getting scored on a lot at 5-on-5. You got to score too. You have to score. That's what worries me more.
That's where I would have liked to see the bottom six produce here in the preseason, right? When you're matching up against AHL lines or other teams' bottom sixes, and honestly, a lot of them were getting bottom six matchups, specifically in the Oilers game, right? Like, you're getting a bottom six matchup against an Oilers team that, yeah, they sent some NHL players, but they're still sending a lot of their AHL top guys. You would like to see the bottom six win that battle, right? And I don't think we've seen that enough in the preseason, but it's also hard to judge completely because we've only really seen a full Vancouver Canucks lineup for one game. So you can take away a little bit more from this final game that they're going to have this weekend, but didn't really get an opportunity to see the bottom six really produce much offense. And I think it should be a little bit worrisome heading into the season. We'll have to see what the final preseason game looks like. I expect to see a very NHL roster. We saw the flip-flop of the AHL players. They got sent back down to Abbotsford today, so they got a day off of camp yesterday to play in a game, but they'll be back in Chilliwack today, getting back on Abbotsford Canucks training camp. You want to get to Jay, Pat? He's here.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation tomorrow. Like I said, Harmon and I, but now it's time for the newest contributor of Canucks Army to join the show. Jeff Paterson is here. Aaron, pull it up. We're looking for a title for the column that Jeff is going to write every Sunday. We announced it on Twitter moments ago. Jeff, I'll let you get a word in soon, but Aaron, pull up this graphic we've got here of the beautiful Patterson's Ponderings graphic here. We're having a little technical difficulty, but I'm going to rattle off some of the names because we're looking for a name. And Jeff, my first question to you, other than how your day is going to be, off top of your head, which one do you like the most out of these names? The Pat Down, Patterson's Ponderings, J Pat's Journal, Patterson's Perspective, Patterson's Pulse, and Do Something Sunday. What's your favorite out of those?
Patterson's pulse. Sounds like I'm going to be taking my blood pressure every week and posting the results on Canucks Army. Look, I've got a lot of mileage over the years off the pat down. I can't remember who came up with that one, but credit to somebody. I think it was a listener generated back in the 1040 days. So, it works, right? Like after games, if I'm shaking down a game and coming up with thoughts like the pat down, and I used to editorialize back in the radio days. So, can it carry over to this endeavor? Yeah, possibly, I suppose. Try and just milk as much mileage as possible out of the pat down. Quads is just like, is this a thing, Faber? Like, is he just an absolute stickler on alliteration? Because like from that day in Victoria where he was so excited about Patterson's ponderings and like just got absolutely annihilated along press row, and yet he's still like 2 weeks later banging the drum for Patterson's ponderings, which I can tell you will not be the title of the call.
Yeah, I think Quad's like, when we're laughing at him, he thinks we're laughing with him. So he thinks it's actually a very good idea that we're going with Patterson's ponderings. That is not going to pass by. As the associate editor of Canucks Army, I will not allow that. I'm the idea guy. He's the intelligent guy, and that's not going to float with us. I think pat down sounds great. It's something you've had, and people know that as well. But we'll have to see. The pulse thing, we'll see. We'll have to see what goes on with that one as well. I think we might be able to work into it, but alliteration is a big thing. I know we were even talking about that earlier today, Quads, with another sponsor coming on board here, which I actually floated the alliteration.
Yeah, you're all on alliteration too. That's the thing, Jeff.
You're floating. There you go.
There we go. Exactly. I think, but yeah, Jeff, we're super excited to get you on at CA. I know it's what was it? I think I saw in the article 10 years you were there at CA a long time ago. This isn't the first run for you with the good folks there.
No, look what Drance has created all those years ago. In fact, Drance brought me on board the first time, and I do think it was a full decade ago. It was around 2013, back in the day where the idea of a blog having access to the locker room was just like this incredible, like people in the NHL couldn't wrap their head around it. Certainly people in the Canucks front office couldn't wrap their head around it. And how times have changed, and it's great. It's progressive now, and the fact that the work that you guys are doing, it's almost laughable to think that there was a time when that was, just looked so far down upon by the organization. So Drance wanted to bring me in as a mainstream guy that had some access, and then the Canucks were like, your press pass says 1040. If you're going to be contributing to Canucks Army, we've got a bit of an issue here. So that was the first time around, pretty short-lived. Second time around was, I remember, Drance orchestrated. I traveled. In fact, got to go to the draft in Buffalo, 2016. Remind me who the Canucks took in the first. No, don't. Let's not do that on the day that he signs over in Sweden and his days in North America are officially done. Talking about Ole Levy, not Drance. Yeah. And again, I was sort of in between jobs and looking for an opportunity to have my voice heard in the market. And Tom's been good that way. And, so the friendship was formed long ago. He brought me in twice. Let's hope third time's the charm. And we'll continue doing what we do. And that is covering this hockey club and just providing content that I know that this hungry fan base wants and can't get enough of. And so I look forward to having an outlet, a weekly outlet. And again, this is on top of all of my, I'm not, exclusive to Canucks Army. This isn't a career change. This is me coming on the weekends. We've established it'll be a Sunday column. Sundays are sort of relaxed generally, maybe a chance for people to sit back and just consume whatever content I can come up with. So I'm looking forward to get going. Timing is great here. Obviously the start of the season next week. So haven't come up with the first column idea just yet. Working through that with Dave. We'll have something for you though, as we launch the to be named column on Sunday at Canucks Army.
Patterson's ponderings. So in
I've got my resignation letter typed up actually right now. It's just sitting here in a file.
Did you have any ponderings at this Abbotsford game? You were there last night. You obviously made the drive out to Abbotsford. We were just talking about it. We were talking about how it was kind of hard to have any takeaways from that game. But Jeff, you won't disappoint us. What takeaways, if any, did you have from that game? Ponderings, one might call them.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like one of those split squad games of the past that usually kick off the preseason with the lineups that the two teams iced this late in the preseason. It was a dull game. I mean, let's be honest. The shots were 4-2 in the first period. in the Canucks' favor. Seattle had 2 shots. So the Kraken didn't have a shot in the first 15 minutes, and it kind of felt that way, although they possessed the puck an awful lot in the first period, I thought. But, they finished the night with 15 shots on goal. I actually thought Casey DeSmith had to make the better saves than, the 2 goaltenders that the Kraken used. I heard you guys, so just before I joined, and I think I'm like a lot of people, you couch everything with, yes, it's the preseason, but there are some red flags here. There's no alarm bells ringing, but there are some red flags. And it does come back to this idea that they scored 8 goals in 5 games and obviously got shut out 10-0 in that first one. But if you dig a little deeper, 5 goals at even strength, so that is a concern. Beyond that, the 8 goals, 3 from Quinn Hughes, last night from Carson Soucy. There's half of the Canucks offense in the preseason from defensemen. Now, they were dead last in the NHL in terms of goals from defensemen in the league last year. So maybe that's a silver lining that they're getting some offense from the back end. Can that continue? And maybe it's going to have to continue. Maybe they're going to lean on a little bit of contributions from the blue line while some of these other guys sort things out. But I just think by this stage of the preseason, you want others than Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko to be your best players. You know what you're getting from Demko and Hughes, and that's great. They look like they're in midseason form and ready to go. But yeah, this supporting cast, we've been told all summer that the Canucks are deeper and therefore they're going to be better. And there are going to be some nights when Elias Pettersson's held in check or he just doesn't have his good stuff going. And that's when you need others. And so, you think back at opening day of training camp and Höglander and Podkolzin, getting this opportunity on these lines, legitimate NHL lines. And one guy's now in Abbotsford and the other guy might be the extra forward when they open next week against the Oilers. And so that's been disappointing, but it goes way beyond that. Anthony Beauvillier has just been silent through the preseason, kind of whiffed on the chance at the side of the net last night. Dakota Joshua has not had a particularly good camp and preseason, maybe got a little better than that opening night when he got called out by the coach, but on and on it goes. Nils Amon, you would have just liked somebody somewhere along the line to sort of step up and have a moment or two through the preseason that we all take note of. Instead, it's been this search party for anybody that you would consider a depth scorer on this hockey club. And so I do have some reservations that this team is any better in that regard. The names change, but ultimately what you're getting from your fourth liners, you go back to Beagle and Schaller and Lamico and Highmore. And, last year it was Curtis Lazar was here. And there's no bottom line for any of these guys. And I think in the modern NHL, you have to have something, raise the bar a little bit in this market. The bar's been so low for so long now. I'm not expecting those guys to be game breakers. But if the Canucks are going to have success and get better as an organization, they do have to win some of these battles at the fringes. And that's where it's not enough. I keep saying too many guys are just wearing a uniform here in the preseason. And that's what it kind of feels like for me.
It's interesting because you look at that third line, the way we kind of see it set, it's going to be Beauvillier, it's going to be Suter, it's going to be Garland. There might be some names moved around here, but you think about the offense that could come from that trio in a third line role. And I feel like on paper, you're thinking, okay, I'm feeling pretty confident about the production I'm going to get out of my third line. We've seen that line together a lot in the preseason, get a good amount of games together. Haven't really seen much from them. What's your expectations for that third line when they're getting bottom 6 matchups in the regular season?
Yeah, I don't know about you, Chris, because you were there last night and Quads, you probably watched the stream, but I actually thought P.S. Suter was one of the better Canucks last night, and he got an elevated role playing in an offensive situation, right? They didn't have Patterson, they didn't have Miller, so essentially the top line center with Kuzmenko and Beauvillier. I thought P.S. Suter had some nice moments in a game that was lacking a lot of them. I think he's quietly had a decent preseason. I think you see the smarts and the savvy almost every time he's out there, and so I'm excited. I think it was a good signing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I do wonder if Dakota Joshua is going to find his way onto that line, just because we know Tocchet loves his wall work and board battles and big bodies and all those types of things. And is there enough heft if you go with the trio that you mentioned? But these are things that are going to be ironed out here in the final preseason game, and then obviously practices up until that opening night against the Oilers next week. So I'm encouraged by what I've seen from P.S. Suter. I think he and Garland basically have been in lockstep since day one of training camp. And I think that's something that they are going to continue there. Is this the year that Connor Garland gets to the 20 goal mark for the first time in Vancouver? Again, you want to believe so. Even in a third line capacity, raise the bar. It's okay to have some expectations. I'm not thinking that he's going to be a 40-goal scorer, but I don't think it's too much to ask at his price point to be a 20-goal scorer. And Pia Suter is the best center that he's had in his time here in Vancouver. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that the potential is there for that third line. The fourth line, I still don't know if the fourth line is, I mean, Tocchet has name checked a few times this week, Bluger with Amon and Studnicka. And so taking the coach's word, that kind of looks like it might be the fourth line. And he said the other day after practice out at UBC that he thinks, that can be an identity line. I don't know. That's one of those buzzwords, right? Identity? What is the identity? What is the identity of that line? What's the identity of this hockey club? I'm not sure that anybody fully knows at this point, but I do worry on too many nights that fourth line as constructed there, I don't know what and there's some penalty killing utility from those guys, obviously, but beyond that, at 5-on-5, I'm not sure what the expectations can really be in terms of offensive output.
Are you buying what we're seeing from the Canucks penalty kill? It was another good night for them last night.
Penalty kill, yeah, it looks and feels different. It just does. And I had somebody push back on social imagine that, somebody pushing back on social. But the game against the Oilers the other night, I know that McDavid and Draisaitl weren't here. Yes, context matters. But just watching the Canucks, the way that they're standing guys up at the line, Carson Soucy, I don't think had a great preseason, but on the penalty kill, he is an eraser at the blue line. He disrupts. He's got the long reach. He's physical, and I do think that's an area that he's contributed. Ian Cole had a bit of a rough go against the Oilers on Saturday, but otherwise, I think I've liked what I've seen from him through camp, and I do think just all of his experience, years in the league, familiarity with Tocchet from their time in Pittsburgh, all those things. I think Ian Cole is going to be a nice addition to this hockey club. Again, he's not going to feature in the highlights very often. I just think he's going to be a calming, steadying influence. And for the most part in the preseason, things have been relatively quiet around him. So, yeah, I mean, that is one thing that is encouraging. Now, dead last, penalty kill sunk them on so many nights last year. Only one way to go, and that's up. How far up? I guess we'll find out. Is it possible? Is there a world in which the biggest strength or biggest weakness of this hockey club the last couple of years could be a strength? I'm not sure that I'm prepared to go that far just yet, but I thought Teddy Bluger looked really good at the game in Edmonton when the Canucks were there. What was that? Just over a week ago. And then you look at guys like Philip Hronek, I think looked really good. I thought even last night in Abbotsford, and I know people were kind of dumping on him for the first cracking goal, but otherwise, the games that Philip Hronek has played, moves the puck reasonably well. He's been physical. How much are they going to lean on him? Probably an awful lot, but I think that when I look at individual performances just on the evaluation front in these exhibition games, I think Philip Hronek's looked kind of like the player that they hope that he's going to be, and that he's going to have to be, obviously, for this team to take some strides forward. So, yes, penalty kill has looked good. I put that on the list of positives from the preseason, but I also agree with Rick Tocchet, and he said this last night post-game that, double-edged sword. Great that the penalty killing is looking a lot better, but they're taking way too many penalties. And they're coming up on the short end of the penalty count on almost a nightly basis. McWard had 3 the other night against Edmonton. Last night, Brisebois had a couple. So, cut back on the penalties so that maybe you're not doing as much penalty killing, but that's what preseason's for, the evaluation. And that is an area that I do think you can just see it looks and it feels different. And that's a good thing because it has been so dreadful for the last couple of years.
Jeff, biggest story from the weekend, Vasily Podkolzin heading down to the AHL. I'm curious, are you leaning more towards this being a step back or a step towards actually developing Vasily Podkolzin here? What do you think should come from this AHL stint to Vasily Podkolzin?
Yeah, I mean, I want him ultimately to sort of take stock of why other guys were able to get noticed in this preseason. Like Arshdeep Bains, people obviously want to see him succeed, but he did the types of things that get noticed. Like Podkolzin, when he was in there, again, one of these guys that just wore a uniform in his preseason game. Like, this isn't his first rodeo. This isn't I expected more from him. And so I'm going to try to see it as positive that, get him down. And talked a little bit about it post game last night. Like, he wasn't one of the guys that was given the quick recall to play in the game last night. And the coach just said, he's in Abbotsford. Just leave him there and let him play. And I kind of agree with that thinking from the organization. To me, that would be mixed messaging if all of a sudden you're recalling Podkolzin after setting him down and it's just this yo-yo. No, he's in Abbotsford now. like play him. Hopefully they play him in a bunch of different situations. I hope that he's, in a top 6 role. Certainly if he's not in a top 6 role in Abbotsford as a 22-year-old first round top 10 guy, then there are some questions that have to be asked. But I'm a big believer in Jeremy Colleton and the work that he's doing there. The Twins and as hands-on as they've been both at the NHL level and the AHL level. I guess I'm prepared to give this a developmental year, but there does have to be some sort of payoff, because at this time next year, if Vasily Podkolzin arrives as a 23-year-old and still, doesn't have the makings of an NHLer, well, Matt Boldy and Cole Caulfield are out there ripping up the NHL. Like when you're 23, that's 5 years removed from your draft. Like it has to happen, or maybe it's not going to happen. So don't want to write the guy off yet. I mean, you just think of the dysfunction of the organization and his time in it with all of the head coaches and management changes and those types of things. But ultimately, I need to see Vasily make some strides. I want the organization to work with him, but a lot of it comes down to the player too. And this just feels like a massive year, almost a make it or break it year for him to be something for the Vancouver Canucks.
Jeff, great stuff as always. Very happy to have you on the team at Canucks Army. Give it some thought. Aaron, do we have it here? Give it some thought, Jeff. Give it some thought.
That's me just out in the weeds with my thoughts, deep in thought. Okay.
All right. Jeff Paterson, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff, thank you for joining us. Much appreciated.
All right, guys. We'll see you at the rink.
Sorry about that, Jeff. Sorry about that. I didn't have anything to do with that. There he is, Jeff Paterson, joining us here on the show. Going to be a regular with us. We're still working on the day for Jeff. I think we might end up getting a Tuesday or Thursday type of thing with Jeff. That feels like a good day here regular on the show. Any takeaways there? You want to get anything in from – you have another alliteration word with P's that you want to throw here?
No, I will eventually, but the one thing I want to focus on is Jeff's final answer there, not about Patterson's ponderings, about Vasily Podkolzin. And he brought up what Rick Tocchet said last night about, not getting Vasily Podkolzin into the game. I think it was Farhan who asked the question. And basically Tocchet just said, if he plays and he plays poorly, you guys call him a bust. And if he plays and doesn't play well, you say he should be an Abbotsford, whatever, right? Maybe getting those mixed up. But regardless, Tocchet basically just said there's no value for him playing in that game. And it's hard to disagree with that. I think that's very sound logic. Let him just go down there, kind of just have everything steady. He gets a full training camp with the Abbotsford coaching staff. Like we said yesterday, the Sedins were out there. That's got to be good for him. Play in that role, just kind of get sheltered away from all that. I'll tell you what, we're having Abbotsford Canucks guests on this season. I'll bet you we're not giving Vasily Podkolzin at any point because they want this guy to just focus on hockey. And that's a good thing. Like, I'd love to have him on the show, but that's a good thing that he just gets to kind of go down, get away from it all, and just focus. He'll have to talk to you every now and then when you go out to Abbotsford for media, but just getting out of the spotlight a little bit is going to be really good for Vasily Podkolzin, I think.
Yep. No, I agree as well. And I think it's time to find what role you want to have at the NHL level. The AHL is going to give him that opportunity. So I'm excited to see that. Hey, let's talk about Greta for a second. Okay. Next Saturday, October 14th, I've been seeing people are sending DMs of tickets. We're selling more than the Oilers Nation, folks. Okay. They got an army over there. We got Canucks Army. It's better than the army they got for those oily boys over there. There's already snow on the ground in Edmonton. I bet. So that's what I'm saying. Over here, it's nice. We got beautiful weather out here. You can get the bat cam up. It's gorgeous here in Vancouver. Next Saturday, we're over at Greta. Saturday, October 14th, Greta, Vancouver. $10 tickets, Quads. What does it come with? Entry for prizes that we're going to be giving away. Canucks Army prizes, some other prizes as well. You got to talk to the sales guy about that. He's got prizes. And on top of the entrance for $10, you get $30 of arcade play money. So you get $30 to play the Bop It machine in there. Whoever gets the high score on the Bop It, I'll give you something from Canucks Army here. We got some stuff for you. I'm bringing some stuff. And on top of all that, $2 hot dogs. I'll be emceeing. Really excited about it. Greta. Next Saturday, get your tickets. Lots of information over on the Canucks Army Instagram, Twitter, all those accounts. Lots of links. Also, the links here in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Or if you're listening on the podcast, it's in the podcast description as well. You can't miss it. So get your tickets, $10, and it goes to support the great kids, or the great folks, and the good kids too, I guess, that kid sport there, raising money for some good kids to get an opportunity to play some sports and all that stuff. That's all good stuff there. So I'm excited for Greta next Saturday.
Yep, going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually appalled that I can't make it. Like I said, I've said every time we bring it up, I'll be in Edmonton, but I'll be watching from afar. And I'm very, very sad that I can't be there. But don't be like me, folks. Make sure you get out there. Make sure you're at that event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, Chris, like you said, you're going to be emceeing that event. Going to be a chance to meet a lot of fine folks. Canucks fans. You're going to meet a lot of different Canucks fans that you haven't met before. And hey, we keep saying it. All those Canucks Army commenters, we want to see you out there too. And I want to see you. Well, Faber wants to see you. I'm not going to be there. I'd like to see you. But we're going to have other events down the line. But yes, don't miss this one on Saturday, October 14th at Greta Bar YVR. Okay, you want to talk about the AHL lineup. Let's get this in, Chris. What do you have for us on the AHL lineup here?
I put it in the, I believe it was the Blackfish report. I put it in this past week, just kind of seeing the way it's going to shape out, specifically with Vasily Podkolzin getting sent down. And it's a pretty exciting young lineup here that I put together. And I think we're going to be interested to see what happens with Cole McWard. I think he was, him being sent out to the media yesterday, he's feeling pretty good about what he's done this preseason. Looks like he might get a shot. I think it's going to really show whatever the lineup is for the final preseason game. If it's Noah Juleson or Cole McWard getting that opportunity, that'll tell us a lot about what we're going to see on opening night. But man, I'm looking at this forward group. Top line, Vasily Podkolzin, Sheldon Dries, Linus Karlsson, who led the team in goals last year for the AHL Canucks. That's a fun top line in the AHL. Obviously, you have Sheldon Dries, who's just a ridiculous scorer at the AHL level. Second line, some young guys. Aiden McDonough at left wing. Max Sasson at center. Tristan Nielsen there on the right wing is where I stuck him, put him in the top six. Then you get a third line of like Arshdeep Bains, Atu Ratu, Danila Klimovic. Just some exciting young players out here in Abbotsford. It's wild. I don't know if anybody was really following the Utica Comets like over the past few years before they moved to Abbotsford. You're looking at the Utica Comets and you're getting like all veterans, like, right? Or young guys that were never going to make it. There's some exciting prospects here. To have a third line of Bains, Ratu, and Klimovic, that's going to be a lot of fun for the folks out in Abbotsford. Then my fourth line, a little bit of a grinders and some tough guys. John Stevens, Chase Waters, the captain, and Jermaine Lowen, who's going to be a little bit of the Big Vinny replacement from the way I've heard. Former captain of the Kamloops Blazers. So we'll see what he's all about. And then on defense, man, Akito Hirose, Jet Wu maybe as your top pairing. Jack Rathbone, we'll see what happens with his future with the Vancouver Canucks. But for now, he's there at camp. You got Matt Irwin to help up on the left side as well. And then we'll have to see what happens with the cuts for the defense. It could be Noah Juleson, could be Cole McWard. And then Philip Johansson, he'll get some time out there as well on the right side. And then Artie Party, you got your buddy there. Artur Silovs, we're going to see him as the starter. There it is. Artie Party starting out there in Abbotsford. So we'll have to see that. And then I'm curious, do you think it's going to be Tolopilo just for the fact that they want the young kid to get some minutes?
People are calling it an Artie Party when you're in that.
I got you really quiet here, Quads. I don't know if anyone, if that's just me, but I got you.
My bad. My bad. My bad. That was my fault. Okay, sorry. What I was saying was that with Tolopilo, I don't know if we're gonna see him in the ECHL. Like, I know a few people brought it up. Like, yeah, he can play a lot. He's gonna play a lot in the AHL as the other guy too, right? And they have that agreement with Kalamazoo, so I suppose it's an option. But I don't think you need to send him down to the ECHL. Like, I don't know about you, Chris. You give your take as well, but to me, Tolopilo looks like a guy who's going to be ready to play in the AHL. Like, I think he's AHL ready, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some in the preseason that made you a little bit excited about what he could have potentially, and I'd rather see him play than Sawchenko. I mean, I feel like I've dumped on Zach Sawchenko really hard throughout the offseason, but it's like, I am more excited to see what Tolopilo can do, and if he can't perform, then get him down to the ECHL after that and have him play minutes. And they might just run with three goalies out there because Sawchenko, with this contract, he can block being sent down to the ECHL. Tolopilo, I don't believe can because he's on an entry-level contract. Yep. So I think we'll have to see what happens here. I think it's going to end up being Tolopilo, but man, if they start playing Sawchenko, then it wouldn't surprise me to see Tolopilo go. Now that they have the connection with the Kalamazoo Wings, they can do it pretty easily. And it's not the worst thing. Hey, Artur Silovs last season was playing in the ECHL. Look at him now, right? Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. It just happens.
Can I give you a take that's away from this AHL? Do you have anything else on the AHL before I move away from it? Because I have a take that I just want to get out there.
No, I'm good.
Okay. We just saw Cal Foote pass through the waivers, went unclaimed, right? We saw Jacob Bernard Docker unclaimed, all these guys, right? We saw Lassie Thompson not get claimed by the Canucks, although obviously he was going to be able to be claimed ahead of them, obviously. But like, we don't know if they put in a claim is what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to actually say here, Chris, is it feels like the Canucks are going to make a trade, right? That's what at least my take. I don't think you let these flyers on the waiver wire go by the wayside. And I understand the situation was a little complicated with Cal Foote, but if you're the Canucks, I feel like you don't let these players go through without having an idea that you're going to be able to bring someone in, specifically on the right side, that you feel a little bit more confident in than Cole McWard. And this isn't a knock on Cole McWard. It's just that I'm looking at the quality of the players that are going through the waiver wire, and I'm thinking to myself, like, Canucks need to compete right away. Like, if this was 5 years ago and we were talking, yeah, okay, you want to develop Cole McWard into this, NHL defenseman, and you're going to do that by putting him in the NHL, that's one thing. But the Canucks need to win right now. And I think we're going to see that in a lot of their decision making. So I'm a little bit not shocked. I'm just curious. To me, this spells out that they're going to be making a trade at some point. I think they're going to be bringing in someone on the right side. I don't think this is the opening night lineup. And I really think we're going to see something between now and opening night. I don't think they're going to roll with Cole McWard on the first pair. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
I just think that I don't think that's realistic, because I think that they would have wanted to make that trade before training camp and preseason to be able to get them in if that was their intention on the right side. I think their intention is to play Cole McWard on the right side on opening night. I think that's what they've been showing us throughout not necessarily training camp, but at least the preseason. He's been getting a good run. He's here on this roster when there's only a couple cuts left, and I just think it would be strange to go through preseason and then make a trade and just bring this guy and put him in the lineup with Quinn Hughes. But hey, it wouldn't shock me either. I get what you're saying. I just don't think that's the smartest idea of how to bring in your top pairing right shot defenseman. But I also don't know if it's the smartest idea to play the kid with less than 10 NHL games either. So yeah.
They did it with Ethan Bear last year. Ethan Bear was acquired on October 26th or something like that. Maybe 27th. It was late October. I can tell you that much. And hey, maybe the Carolina Hurricanes, maybe they're a trade partner. I don't know. Brett Pesce. People throwing it in the chat. Brett Pesce. There's a cap situation. Also, quickly, we'll get this in. Speaking of the cap, Gary Bettman yesterday at the Board of Governors meeting threw out what he called a very preliminary estimate that we were looking at a cap of 87 to 88 million next year. So just something interesting to keep an eye on.
Okay. Interesting. We'll see what happens there. That's a pretty good jump if we end up seeing that at 82.5. We could end up seeing 5 million. I know it's a very preliminary. I know that was very clearly said by Bettman in the quote about it. So we'll see what happens. Let's get to our Betway bets of the day before we wrap it up here. What do we got here? October 5th is our bet. We've got the over for the Canucks at 89.5 points. You're getting it at even odds to go over 89.5. So that means they need 90 or more points this season. That's going to get you $20 back on a $10 bet. Quads, do you think the Canucks get to 90 points this season? They were at 83 last year with a 38, 37, and 7 record. Even odds here to be 90 points or more for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep. Yeah, I'm buying. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. We talked to Frank. He said they're ahead of the Seattle Kraken. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Okay, fair enough. Is the Kool-Aid sweet enough for you to go plus 130 on them to make the playoffs? Because then you get a $10 bet. You're returning yourself 23 on that. So you get a little $3 bump to talk about playoffs here.
I think so, because I want to talk playoffs. Like, I want to watch playoff hockey. Like, that's the thing, is everybody says, yeah, the media hates the team. No, we don't. We just want to see some playoff hockey. Like, we don't love the team. We're not cheering, but we want to cover playoffs. Like, we want to cover a playoff team. It's always way more fun to cover a winner. Just even that, how much fun we had when they were in the bubble there. Like, that was peak Canucks convo. That was so much fun. The podcast we were doing, getting there early in the morning, back at my grandpa's house when we used to have a studio in there. Anyways, I don't know. I don't want to keep reminiscing too much, but yes, I am taking that over on Betway. And if you want to take it over on Betway, be sure that you were 19 plus to play. And if you play, please play responsibly. What about you? Over 90? You taking it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to bet the under. The under was actually at minus 142, so you're not even getting even odds. So I would take the even odds at 90 or more. I would really hope. I think once the penalty kill gets a little, like, if the penalty kill's worse than the league, geez, give me the under. But I mean, if they can get themselves to like 23rd, 24th, it's going to make a massive difference to this team and how they can start to push towards being a playoff team. But I think 90 points is something that's very attainable for the Vancouver Canucks this season. And I think getting even odds, feel pretty good about that one as well. I got to get this in too. I missed yesterday my word of the day. I've been slacking on them because the brain's not, I'll be honest, I got wedding brain right now, so it's not great. But I missed a word yesterday that I know well, and I don't know if you would know, but I know this word extremely well. Quad, do you know what dunnage is?
No, I don't.
See, it was a word of the day yesterday, and I missed it. I felt bad that I couldn't use it in the show because dunnage, we used a lot at the mill. You would put it between so when I did a stack of wood, I was in the compactor, and you see them going down. You see them on the semis going down like those big, whatever I'm talking about, like the blocks of wood together. There's dunnage underneath to keep them apart because obviously you can't just stack all the wood on one thing. You got to put them in little piles to each other. Dunnage gets strapped to the bottom. I missed it yesterday. So I was too bad about that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll close it out there. Do you have anything else for the fine people before we wrap up? You're getting married. The last time you go on this show, you will be a married man. Hopefully not wearing that lobster shirt at your wedding, but you're going to be a married man.
No, day after. But no, I've next time you see me, I'll have a ring on my finger, and it's about damn time. Get that thing. I had to get it custom fit because I got the fattest fingers you'll ever see. I got real fat fingers, big hands, and actually, I remember Botch one time when Shotgun Jake was a thing. Botch had it in the Provies one time. It was just like, look at the meat claws on this guy. It was me doing a Shotgun Jake, and like the can, like cans look pretty. Like this is a big can. It looks pretty. Like this is one of the tall cans. It looks pretty small in my hands. And I remember Botch had that one time in the Provies. So it's like the meat claws on this guy here, the just Shotgun Jake era. So the ring was custom. I went in to try on. Just because I'm just getting like a simple gold ring, and yeah, like they didn't have one for me to try on in the store, so I had to get it custom made. It came in, it fits well, so that's good.
Fantastic. Well,
yeah,
I said it on the last show.
It's going to be a very fun day. Looking forward to it, and this is my last show before that, so I'll see everybody on. And by the way, Monday no show because of Thanksgiving. Harmon will be with you on Tuesday because I'm still going to be over on the island on Tuesday. So you and Harmon are taking over Friday tomorrow and Tuesday as well. So yeah. And yes, I'll be going to Costco. Jesse's making fun of my Costco hot dog fingers. I'll be going there tomorrow. I got to pick up some stuff for the wedding, some Gatorades throughout the day and things like that. So yeah, thanks everyone. I appreciate everyone in the chat. All the nice things about the wedding here. I appreciate it. Jeremy, Lisa, Sam, everybody, Jesse, everybody in the chat, Jarhead. Helva, everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I appreciate it. I'm very much looking forward to getting married to the love of my life, and can't wait for Sunday. I wish I could. Very happy. Man, if I could close my eyes, wake up Sunday morning, that's the one wish I have right now. I'm so tired of these days leading up to it. I just want to get over there and get the day started. I'm very excited for the day.
Are we golfing on your wedding day? Did we decide that? Are we doing that?
Yeah, we got a tea time. Yep, we're golfing in the morning because we don't have. That's why I feel bad. My fiance's up at 5 a.m. She's got the hair lady on there banging on her door at 5:30 in the morning to do her hair and makeup and all these things. Listen, we don't have to start getting ready till like an hour before, pretty much, right? Like that gives us plenty of time to put a little bit of gel in our hair and shave our necks a little bit, and like that's all we really got to do and put on the suits. Like this, we could do in probably 7 minutes if we're being honest. But her, it's like a whole day affair. Obviously, she's gonna look beautiful. Very excited to see her come down the aisle. Guarantee I tear up. I can guarantee that I tear up for when that happens. So I'm very excited for that moment and the whole day. So thanks to everyone. Enjoy the next 2 shows with Harmon and Quads. These young bucks letting the show run wild over the next 2 shows. But I'll be back on Wednesday.
Beautiful. I'm hoping somebody films my closing speech, my closer. When the closer walks up, films my speech and puts it on the Canucks Convo Patreon. I'm hoping that happens. So I'll leave it at that. But we're all very that's our cue to get out of here.
That's our meeting. We gotta go.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, we'll wrap it up for my co-host Chris
early today.
And our technical producer, Aaron Bordador. Thanks again to Jeff Paterson, newest addition to the Canucks Army. My name is David Woodrelli. Thank you so much for listening to an episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation with Quads and Faber. New episodes every weekday, 1:30 across the board, except for Wednesdays, 1 o'clock. We'll see you there live on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. For more information, visit CanucksArmy.com.
How about keep it to a thank you, Jim?